You might not know this, but great singers often sing the majority of their songs in the same key. This is not a coincidence. They, or their music director, knows something that you might not know. Listen to the rest of this episode to find out what it is. Hey, welcome to the Monique on the Mic podcast. I'm your host, Monique B. Thomas. This show is your go-to resource for professional and aspiring singers. Every Monday, join me for a mix of solo episodes and insightful interviews where I share real artist stories, practical strategies, and mindset shifts. Whether you're just starting out or are already on your journey, you'll find the tools you need to transform your vocal path and feel supported. I keep it real, I keep it fun, and it's always useful and up to date. Let's get into it. So what is it? The secret ingredient that keeps great singers sounding amazing. It is, drumroll please, choosing the right songs and keys. We might compare song choice to choosing the right outfit and key choice to choosing the right size. If you buy a pair of pants where the style doesn't suit your body type, it doesn't really matter what size you buy. You simply won't look right. Similarly, the key that you choose to sing in won't matter if the song doesn't suit you. So how do you find the right song? To be honest, the best way to choose the right songs is usually to let your teacher choose for you. But for the sake of our conversation, or rather my dialogue, let's say you don't have a teacher. Here's how I would go about it. I choose songs that match the skills that you've shown in scales. An example of this would be your ability to sing one or two notes in your first bridge. I would then choose a matching song that requires you to sing one or two notes in your first bridge, and that quickly gets you out rather than staying there, which requires more skill. I hope that makes sense. How do you find the right key? Finding the right key is more involved than just seeing if you can sing all the notes of the song in its original key. We have to take into consideration the song's range and tessiture, or tessitura in Italian. Range is how high and how low the song goes. This can immediately disqualify a key for you because some notes might be out of reach. Tessiture is where most of the notes in a song occur or where it sits. For example, a song may have one really low note and yet most of the notes sit rather high. This might be a very challenging song, as oftentimes voices that sit very high might lack low notes, especially without proper training. But how does one know where one's voice sits or one's tessiture? Well, that is a very good question. In order to truly know one's tessiture, one must train. You cannot simply know one's tessiture just from their speaking voice, nor by the difficulty one might be having with low or high notes. Oftentimes, those difficulties simply stem from the fact that the voice is not yet developed. In other words, vocal technique will help a voice reveal its true self, its true tessiture. As the voice might not yet be developed, I would choose keys that reinforce smooth transitions through the bridges and avoid keys that make someone want to pull chest or flip or crack in the head voice. It takes quite a bit of training and knowledge to be able to choose the right keys. This might also mean that you'll have keys that you work in order to establish your vocal technique, but you won't necessarily perform them in those keys in public. You'll do this until you eventually settle on the key in which you will sing in public. This key should highlight the best parts of your voice, not making you sound muddy, which means too low, or strident, which means too high. Your keys might therefore change as your vocal technique evolves, since the desired result is that you sound your best and the song sounds its best. We can't forget to serve the song. Now let's talk about something I see all too often in my studio. A student assigned female at birth comes in with a song sung by a person assigned male at birth. If the song is sung by someone like Stevie Wonder or adult Michael Jackson, the student will tend to want to sing in their keys because those are both male singers with high tessitures. They are assuming that because they can physically sing all of the notes, that it is okay. Here's the problem with that. Our ears become accustomed to what we hear. When a male voice sings high in their range, let's say between E4 and C#5, this is still very mid to low for most women. Yes, it's comfortable and doable, but it's not just about the notes. When those men sing, there's an excitement and usually a brightness to their voice because of where it sits. there's that word again, in their voice. Unless you are a rare contralto, you cannot produce the same excitement singing in that key because of how it sits in your voice. The result would be that the high notes are just meh. You are then obliged to change the key. I find that singing songs of the opposite sex, even with the key changes, doesn't always work. Oftentimes, we have to change the key from a third to a fourth, above or below, and the song loses something special. There are, of course, exceptions like Mariah Carey singing Take a Look at Me Now or Celine Dion singing All by Myself. But these are versions with very special arrangements the average singer doesn't have access to. My suggestion is to stick to same-sex songs for the most part while you're developing your voice and venture out when your voice has settled into its tessiture. Another reason to stick to same-sex singers for a while is that you need to train your ear as to what good singing by someone of the same sex, and even better, of the same tessiture sounds like. When we listen to voices in the beginning stages that do not resemble our own, we get a case of false identity. In other words, because we love a certain singer, we want and expect our voices to be the same way, which is obviously unreasonable. Asking your teacher for a list of singers to listen to that resemble your own can go a long way into speeding up the process as you begin to expect your voice to do the things that are appropriate for it. There are consequences to not singing enough songs in the right keys. Basically, what happens when you don't sing in the right keys is you will fail to navigate your bridges correctly. In other words, not smooth bridging. The voice is like a patchwork, where you pull a little too much here, you sing more quietly there, and it's never really even. Even if you're very musical, you can get away with it because the average listener doesn't know any better, but it truly is not satisfying for you, the singer. You know that you sing over, under, and around issues rather than singing exactly what you want to sing. You're constantly having to compromise your art. That becomes tiresome. I know a little something about this because I've spent most of my career singing in the wrong keys. I'll be transparent and say that it has hindered my vocal progress. It kept me from getting my voice as smooth as my artistry needed it to be, and even though my voice is very agile, it's only fast until it hits a bump. And then there's the pitch issues. If you're constantly dealing with pitch issues, you probably still haven't worked out your registration, which is getting through the bridges evenly. It's interesting to note that my voice was often misunderstood. She, I call my voice a she, is light and very high in nature, but the fact that I can physically sing really low made people think that my voice would develop into something lower and more powerful. The end result was a very disjointed, cranky, and often out-of-tune voice. I worked diligently to correct this, and I'm finally on the right track, which means my keys are all going up, not going down, despite the fact that I'm getting older. It is extremely important to me that I sing well for as long as possible in the right tessiture, so that when the inevitable voice decline starts, I'll still have a baseline to hold on to. I hope that makes sense. So remember, just because you can sing in any key doesn't mean you should. So what about you? Do you think you're singing the right songs in the right keys? If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're really liking what I'm throwing down, you'll love my Mike Masters newsletter. For more information on how to work with me and to sign up for the newsletter, visit www.moniquebthomas.com or check the show notes. Musically, Monique.